The world system theory. This theory believes that capitalism has spread around the world for the last 5 centuries, from 1500 to present. In world capitalism, the key structure is the three major divisions of labor of each country that has created hierarchy. It is like dependency theory, suggests that wealthy countries benefit from other countries and exploit those countries' citizens. It is contrast to dependency theory. However, this model recognizes the minimal benefits that are enjoyed by the low-status countries in the world system. The theory originated with sociologist Immanuel Wallerstein, who suggests that the way a country is integrated into capitalist world system determines how economic development takes place in that country. The core was the powerful, wealthy, and industrialized countries that usually control and benefit from the global market. Countries that are not as rich as the core countries usually depend on these core countries. These countries own most of the world capital and technology and have a great control over the world trade and economic agreement. Core countries focus on the higher skill, capital-intensive production, and the rest of the world focuses on the low-skill, labor-intensive production and extraction of raw materials. This constantly reinforces the dominance of the core countries. Nonetheless, the system has dynamic characteristics, in part as a result of revolution in transport technology. An individual state can gain or lose their core status over time. Core countries are capital intensive. They have high wages and high technology production pattern and lower amount of labor exploitation and coercion. These countries belong to core countries: Australia, Austria, Belgium, Canada, Denmark, Finland, France, and Germany. The next one is peripheral. Peripheral countries that are dependent on core countries for a capital and have an underdeveloped industry. They generally provide labor and materials to core countries. In the world system theory, the periphery countries are those that are less developed than the semi-periphery and core countries. These countries usually receive disproportionately small share of global wealth. Countries like Cambodia, Bangladesh, and the most of sub-Saharan Africa are examples of periphery, where technologically simple, labor-intensive, low-skill, and low-wages occupation predominate. These are broad generalizations, and within a country there can be areas of core processes and areas of peripheral processes. And the last one is semi-peripheral. Semi-peripheral countries that share characteristics of both core and periphery countries. However, they also exploit peripheral countries just as core exploits the natural resources of peripheral countries. South Korea, Taiwan, Mexico, Brazil, India, Nigeria, and South Africa, there are countries which are positioned between the periphery and core countries. They have characteristics of periphery countries and core countries. Core countries and countries that are developed and peripheries are not. So we can say that semi-periphery countries are less developed than the core countries. The world polity theory. It was developed as an analytical frame for interpreting global relations, structures, and practices, invoking an image of the world as a system of interrelated, interdependent units. It views the world system as a social system with a cultural framework called world polity, which encompasses and influences the actors such as nations, international organizations, and individuals under it. It provides sociological institutionalist account of the global relations within a cultural model, positing norms and identities for actors and prescribing related actions and goals. Social actors and associated structures and behaviors are viewed as shaped by the broader environment. Individuals, organizations, governments, and other actors are embedded in a cultural context that frames and determines their identity, structure, and behavior. Thus, the world polity gives meaning and value to particular actors and activities, integrating them into larger schemes within a broader analytical framework. The world itself is conceived as an increasingly integrated social system within a cultural framework that affects various actors as a system, subunits, and puts into place models of social action in the broad society. World cultural theory seeks to explain an apparent convergence of education through a neo-institutionalist lens, seeing global rationalization in education as driven by the logic of science and the myth of progress. While critics have challenged this assumption by focusing on local manifestation of broad-level tendencies, such critique is comfortably accommodated within world culture theory. We approach the debate from a fresh perspective by examining its ideological foundations. We also highlight shift from notion of myth and enacted toward advocacy for particular models. And we show the world cultural theory that can become normative, while obscuring our view of policy convergence. Impact of globalization. Homogeneity. It means an increasing sameness as information and ideas flows across boundaries. Cultural homogenization is an aspect of cultural globalization listed as one of its main characteristics, and refers to the reduction in cultural diversity through the popularization and diffusion of wide array of cultural symbols, not only physical objects but custom, ideas, and values. Under the homogeneity, we have cultural imperialism, media imperialism, McDonaldization, and globalization. Cultural imperialism, it is a growing international influence of a particular culture. When we say cultural imperialism, it is cast as the international extension of the long discredited hypodermic needle theory, which views cultural consumers as a passive automatons. At the other end of the extreme, the globalization of culture perspective is cast as a widely postmodern standpoint in which free-floating individuals are said to be able to make an infinite set of localized meaning from cultural products. There has been a growing trend among many global communication and media scholars to locate a productive middle ground between cultural imperialism and globalization of culture. In cultural imperialism, we have culture, economic, and political. The cultural is the role played by the American culture or the Americanization, the spread of Christianity. Second one is economic, the spread of market economy throughout the world. And the third one is political, worldwide spread of models of the nation state or the single model of governance around the world. Oftentimes, it is called Macworld. Media imperialism. It is a subcategory under the broader umbrella of cultural imperialism. From the traditional point of view, the Western media as a technology dominate countries belonging to less developed nations. When we say media imperialism, It is clearly based upon overcompensation of a mass media from larger nations as a significant variable in negatively affecting smaller nations, in which the national identity of a smaller nation is lessened or lost due to media homogeneity inherent in mass media from the larger countries. Globalization has a great influence on the media and further its impact on us. The most visible effect of globalization, widespread of communication. The introduction of newspaper, magazine, internet, and TV has immense help to spread information and has helped people to come together from all over the world. McDonaldization. It is the process wherein the principle of one of the dominant fast food restaurant in the United States of America is employed and used in almost different societies across the world. Its principle usually resolve around efficiency, predictability, and technological advancement in production and marketing. When we say McDonaldization, it is a concept developed by an American sociologist, George Richer, which refers to the particular kinds of rationalization of production, work, and consumption that rose to prominence in the late 20th century. The basic idea is that these elements have adapted based on the characteristic of fast food restaurants. Efficiency, calculability, predictability, and standardization control. And that this adoption has ripple effect throughout all aspects of societies. Then, the last one in homogeneity is globalization. It is the desires and ambitions of different entities such as organization, corporation, and other nations to influence others and impose their power throughout the world. Their major goals include expanding their power and seeing their profits grow across different parts of the world. The next and the last one is heterogeneity. It is associated with the creation of local inputs leading to a variety of cultural hybrids. In other words, the predominance of local would make a difference on a global scale. Thus, local is associated with heterogeneity and the dominance of global is related to homogeneous. When we say heterogeneity, is a genetic term derived from the ancient Greek, signifying others or different. The meaning is race or type. In the globalization debate, the term heterogeneity is generalized used to describe a quality of cultural diversity, mostly as an antidote of cultural convergence thesis, which propose an increasing homogenization of culture through globalization. Conceptualization of heterogeneity are largely related to interpretation of what culture and cultural identity are comprised of, as well as what globalization entails. Globalization, it is the integration of global and local cultural inputs to create a blend resulting in a variety of cultural hybrids. It is emphasized diversity, hybridity, and independence. Thank you.